Probably the biggest criticism of Danny's World and players inside of the game is that starters suck. For people that don't know, as soon as you join the game, you have options between 2 different tunes. Kind of like Pokemon. You can pick between Boxten or you can pick between Poppy. And inherently, there's nothing wrong with these tunes other than the fact that people don't want them in their parties. If you ever join a public lobby inside of Danny's World, there's a lot of toxicity towards these tunes as they're known as starter tunes. And the main reason a lot of people get harassed for being a starter tune is because they're under the assumption they don't know how to play the game. Which, to the player's defense, is completely justified. Because guess what? There's not a tutorial in this game. Admittedly, learning how to play this game for the first time is learning how to ride a bike. It's really not that easy. When you first join the game, after you choose your character, you can sift through the information and then go to page 4 to then learn about how twisteds work, and then page 6 to then learn how the machines work. If you don't literally go out of your way, you will not find out this information at all. But today, I have some really exciting news. There is going to be a tutorial added into Danny's World. It has been confirmed. We're going to talk about what a tutorial in this game could look like. Either way, me being me, trying to find out anything new Danny's World related so I can relay it to you guys, is that in a future update, a tutorial for Danny's World will be added in order to teach new players how to play, and in completing the tutorial, players will be given a Roblox badge. I have 2 things to say about that. 1, there needs to be more badges in Danny's World anyways. I want to make a fun video where I get a badge. Secondly, would the badge appear in game, or do you have to complete the badge or complete the tutorial in order to play the game? Either way, let's look at exactly what Quell said. So, Chalky Milk Freddy, nice, said it's also worth mentioning the starters aren't really in a good state right now, which is true. We talked about the toxicity before. There's several videos talking about the toxicity towards the new starter tunes in Danny's World. And you can see right here, Quell herself said, I want an actual tutorial in the future. It's not like that's really coded in any way, shape, or form. Admittedly, it's just extremely vague. I want a tutorial in the future. That's a lot to unpack. Is it going to come out next week? 4 updates away? Next update? We don't really know. Inherently in itself, a tutorial seems like it could be added in on its own, almost as a little side project, but obviously, I'm not a development team. I'm not on the development team. In my opinion, really doesn't matter. Furthermore, Quell states, maybe completing the tutorial gives a badge for anyone who likes to badge collect. So completing the tutorial really is just like a little side thing. Like, if you complete it, you get the badge, but it doesn't really do anything, which is how badges work. Either way, I wanted to go over 5 things that I think the tutorial needs to have so we can stop A, the starter tune harassment that's been going on in Danny's World for literal months, and B, just go through everything that should inherently be in the game that's important for new players to know, as if they are playing the game for the very, very first time. Let's get into it. I would say before we jump into this lesson, we need to change the scenery, wouldn't you say?
Welcome to my classroom. Students, gather around. Everyone put your hands in the blender. Oopsies.
All right, attention. Everyone, take notes. Take notes. You will be quizzed on this later on in the video. So, starting off, we said we're going to talk about the 5 main things that the Danny's World tutorial needs to have. I think it goes without saying, the main objective of the game is completing machines to get to the elevator. What should the tutorial have? I agree, machine completion. But I want the machine to completion to go deeper than just completing a machine. I wanted to get into how skill checks actually work. Let me explain. By the way, Quell, if you're watching this, can I be like an instructor inside of the game for the tutorial, please? Please. So I do believe Roger has a skill check size of 3. I think it'd be really cool that not only inside the tutorial do you have to complete a machine, but it switches between different tunes to show you the different skill check sizes. For example, as I'm working on the machine, it'll proc your first skill check and you'll have to complete it. And then after you complete 1 skill check, it'll start at, like, let's say a 3 skill check size. It'll show you what a 5 skill check size looks like, as well as a 1-star skill check size. Because that way you understand what playstyle you might want to have. That Poppy totally just yoinked my sauce.
Excuse me, Poppy. I was in the middle of doing something.
But it can help you understand if you want to have a bigger skill check, and if you even want to be an extractor at all. Maybe you learn just by that tutorial that you want to play more of a distractor role, which will lead us into our second point. But that's what I want the machines to have. I want it to show 5-star skill checks, 1-star skill checks, as well as I want you to have to complete a machine that elicits at least 5 skill checks. Now that we've talked about the machine completion, the main objective of the game, number 2 is pretty vague, but it's just twisted. So the way I want the tutorial to start is I want it to start off by showing what a twisted looks like. Like, just imagine whatever tune you select. Let's say you're Bobby or Poppy in the tutorial. It shows you what a twisted boxten looks like. And then it'll show you how the twisted research works after it shows an encounter with the boxten. For example, I want it to be so that when you're in the tutorial, the boxten appears, but he can't touch you, but you see him. So you're exposed to that twisted for the first time. Then electing like 1% research and then explaining how the research works. We'll talk more about the actual mechanics of twisteds later, but I think it'd be cool for them to explain the in-game mechanics of how research works, because honestly, I still don't fully understand it myself. Like, for example, you get Ichor for every time you encounter a Twisted, but what exactly does that mean? How much Ichor do you get? And is the Ichor every time that, like, Twisted sees you? Who knows? But we all do know how research capsules work, and it should also explain to the players it's not like items on the ground. Ichor capsules are for everyone sees the same Ichor capsules. That's something I didn't understand.
Chop, chop, gather round now. This might be good for any of you that didn't already know this either.
I feel like I'm making a tutorial video. I will do that soon for anyone that wants to see it. If this video gets, I don't know, 1,000 likes, I'll make a hopeless Danny's World tutorial. Either way, number 3 is going to be explaining how trinkets and items work. Because trinkets, I personally didn't understand how they worked when I first started playing the game either. So after it explains how Twisted and the research works, it should then show you how trinkets work. And it should say how if you get 100% Twisted research on boxten, you'll then unlock this trinket, which you can buy trinkets from Dandy, or you can get other trinkets by 100% researching tunes that you get by getting encounters with them and collecting capsules. So now that we've talked all about capsules and shebang, it should also explain how items work. It doesn't have to fully explain to you how items work. It can explain how, I don't know, just a speed cola works, because inside the game itself, that does do a good job. Whenever you pick up an item, it does tell you what it does on the screen, which is massive, but it should explain to the new players that you can collect these items throughout the game, you can purchase them, but they are one-time consumable. I think that's just the most important thing. They can be found on the map. Certain tunes have abilities to start the game with them, and they're one-time consumable.
Moving on to number 4.
Obviously, number 4 is the most important one. It needs to explain the line of sight mechanic. This is honestly the most important thing from the tutorial and the main focal point of what it should be. But what would line of sight explanation look like? Well, me personally, I don't think there's any better way to learn than by being exposed to it. I think they should make a small room where you have to avoid getting out of the line of sight of a Twisted 3 separate times. So, for example, let's find a small room that has a good ability and a good amount of space to break line of sight with the Twisted. Imagine I just got a floor with R&D and Roger. Also, at any point in the video, if you want to correct me or think there should be more added, feel free to comment it down below. So, for example, we see Twisted Tegan right here, and perfect, they just wandered into this room. So imagine this room got sealed off. Shink! Inside of this room, you're gonna have to attract Tegan, and then you're gonna have to learn how to get eyesight off and how that mechanic works. And then obviously you're gonna have to get in their line of sight again, and then run away, and then figure out how to break line of sight and how it works that way. It might take you a few times, but you're gonna get exposed to elements, and you literally can't beat the tutorial until you beat it, or until you lose a line of sight 3 times, which would help new tunes, new starting tunes immensely. It should definitely help a lot of tunes not immediately die right away. But more importantly, it teaches you the mechanics of how line of sight works in Danny's World. Like, the main antagonist, the main villain of Danny's World are these Twisteds that are chasing and following you around the map. This is how you counter them. This is how you beat them. This is how you avoid them. And it'll explain all that to you before it exposes you to having to, you know, break line of sight. That is like the most important thing the tutorial could have.
Last but certainly not least, what should the tutorial have, Hopla boy?
I don't think this inherently needs to be added into the tutorial. It can. I think just plastering it on a whiteboard somewhere inside of the normal lobby would be good, but just explaining what basic lingo works, or what it means, as in acronyms. I should do /acronyms. I came back to my game, and Tegan was literally just munching on me, bro. So for those of y'all that don't know what I'm yapping about, I'm talking about acronyms like GTE, or acronyms like EIE. I believe it's EIE, right? But basically, explain to new tunes what these acronyms mean, because you literally don't know what they mean unless you have to ask someone, which no one really wants to, because it exposes you out for being a noob. Like, GTE means get to elevator, explaining what get to elevator looks like. But yeah, just a big poster board, kind of like what Foster Sanctuary has, explaining what these acronyms mean. And number 6, honorable mention. I think it should explain what the panic mode means. Maybe the tutorial ends with, after you get out of the line of sight of the Twisted 3 times, it simulates what a panic mode looks like, and maybe the room you're trapped in turns into an elevator, and you have to run into the elevator, and then that completes the tutorial. I think that would be really, really cool. Like, someone on the head comms explains to you, oh, hey, this is what's going to happen when you enter or when you activate panic mode. This is what happens. Get to the elevator. And then it simulates the same thing of getting to the elevator, because you might not have known that fully while in the game, that that's what that means in the panic mode. or what panic mode fully means. So either way, I'm just excited to hear that there is a tutorial coming into Danny's World. Hopefully you guys like this type of video where I just talked about the tutorial and the basics of Danny's World and what I think it should have. Let me know if you agree with everything that I said. Let me know what you disagree with, or more importantly, what else you guys think should be added. Or I think the biggest criticism I could have on the tutorial that I made right now is that it might be a little bit too long. Maybe there's a faster way of abridging it, or when it's actually meshed together, maybe it makes the most sense. Either way, Quell, you should add me as a teacher in that, or if you want me to be the voice actor that, like, is in your head doing the tutorial voice, I would love to. Guys, send this to Quell. You won't. Either way, make sure you guys unsubscribe, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye!